tutorial. So right now I will be coming down to, I'll bring out the full length of my blouse, and the full length I'll be working with is 24 inches. So I'm just going to come down to 24 inches and I'll mark it on both sides so I can have a straight line connected. So right now I'm just going to connect the straight line like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to bring out my bust point measurement, my armhole line, and my waistline. So this is my bust point, 10 inches. My under bust is 12 inches, while my waistline is 14.5 inches. And I'm just going to mark it on both sides and draw a straight line across. So from my bust point, I'm going to go up by 2 inches to have my chest line measurement. And this chest line, I'm going to mark it on both sides to form a straight line across as well. So I'm just going to connect my lines like this. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to bring out my shoulder measurement. My shoulder is 16 divided by 2 is going to give me 8. So I'm just going to mark the 8 here, and I'll come to my chest line and also mark the 8 inches. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to have a straight line. Now I'll come to my shoulder line and mark my neck width, which is 3 inches, and I'll come down by 4 inches as the neck depth. And I'm just going to connect around. So this is it. So on this part I'm going to come down by 1 inches and I'm going to connect it down to this point of the neck width. So right now I'm going to divide my armhole measurement by 2 and I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to connect this line to meet with this one, and I'll connect it down like this. Sorry, I'm using a free hand here, that's why. So the next thing I'm going to do is to bring out my bust span measurement. My bust span is 36. When divided by 8 minus 1 is going to give me around 3.7 or 3.5. So I'm going to use 3.5 here. I'm going to mark 3.5 till the down part, which is the hemming line. I'm going to mark the 3.5, and I'm just going to connect a straight line here. So if you take note, you see that I drew this straight line to meet with my chest line. So from my under bust measurement, I'm just going to take 1 inch on this part, this side of it. I'm going to take 1 inch, and on this other side I'm going to take 1 inch as well. So I'm going to mark the same thing on this down part, and I'm going to connect a straight line. So you can see that I've drew the straight line. So the next thing I'm going to do is to come down from my chest line by 1 inches, and from these 1 inches I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. So this is it. So the next thing I will do is to take my curve ruler to give, I'm going to use my curve ruler starting from this dart leg here. I'm going to mark it this way, give it a curve like this. So this is how it's going to be like. Now I'm going to give it this curve here as well to meet with my chest line. I don't want it to be on my chest line, so I'm going to curve it like this. And on this part here, I'm going to come down by same 1 inch that I came down on this area. So I'm going to connect it this way as well. Just end yours around this area here. So from my dart here, I'm going to go in whatever I used from here to here as my dart, as my bust point, is what I'm going to measure from this bust area to this side. So I'm going to mark 3.5. So I'm going to use my curve ruler like this and connect this dart leg to meet with that 3.5 to up here. So this is how it's going to be like. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to give these points a little contouring here. So I'm just going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides and I'm going to connect my lines. So I'm just going to connect it to meet with the bust point like this, and I'll connect this other side to meet with the bust point as well. Now from this bust point, I'm also going to connect it to meet with my dart leg too, and I'm going to connect this other side as well. So if you look close, you see that the corset, it has already formed itself. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to divide my bust measurement by 4 plus 2 inches for sewing allowance. This is because I'm just going to use, okay, I will not add an allowance to it. So this is 9 inches. 36 divided by 4 will give me 9. So on my under bust is 25. So when I divide 25 by 4, it's going to give me around 6.2 inches. So I'm just going to mark it here, and these 2 inches I used on this part, I'm going to replace it back. So on my waistline, I'm just going to do the same thing. My waist is 30 divided by 2. It's going to give me, divided by 4, sorry. It's going to give me 7.5 plus 2 inches here for the dart intake that we took. I'm going to replace it back. So on my hip line, my hip is 36 divided by 4 will give me 9 as well, plus the 2 inches for the dart that we removed. So this is basically all. So right now you see that we're just going to connect our lines like this. Now the next thing we are going to do is to cut it out. So this part here is going to serve as the yoke. So right now I'm just going to start cutting from here, and I'm going to cut it like this. So this part here is the yoke area. So I'm just going to trace it. So this is it. So I'm just going to label it center front and side front. So this one is center, this is side cup, and the arrow is facing this way. So I'm just going to point it like this. So this one is for the center front as well. So this is it. Now for the back part, we're just going to place this one on the back to cut, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm going to cut the back part separately. So this is for the back part. This is my bust line, my waistline, and my hip, my full length. Then I minus the yoke from it. So this particular place here is going to serve as our chest line. So before I proceed, I'm going to take my zipper allowance and I'm going to mark 1.5 inches for it. So I'll place this 1.5 inches on both sides and mark a straight line across. So this is it. So this is my zip line. Then from my waistline I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to connect it down to the hemline like this. This is to avoid bulginess, and I'm going to mark it upward too. So right now this point, this part here, we don't need it. We're going to cut it out. So I'm going to fold the zipper allowance inside. I'm going to fold it inside like this. So right now I'm going to mark my bust pan measurement from right from the middle like this. My bust pan measurement is 3.5 that I'm using, and I'll mark it to the chest line. So I'm going to connect a straight line. And we're going to use our regular dart intake. So I'm going to place 1 inch on both sides from here, and I'll connect from up like this, so you can see. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So these are that. So I'm going to divide. So I'm going to divide my hip measurement by 4 here, and I'm going to place my answer. Then my waist measurement is 30 divided by 4 will give me 7.5, and my bust point I'm going to mark same 9 inches because my bust is 36. So whatever I remove from here, I'm going to add it back like we said. So I'm going to add 2 inches back. So I'm going to add 2 inches to this point as well, and we're just going to connect our lines. So right now I'm just going to cut out. So this is the up side, and this is the side. So right now I'm just going to cut off this part of the zip that we don't need. So right now I'm going to bring out the dart. I'm going to cut it out. So right now I'm just going to pin my pattern paper together with my fabric. So right now, remember that I didn't add any allowance to the brown paper. So remember, what you note that I used a masking tape to join the center front and the side front together. That is the dart line. I joined it together with a masking tape. That is why you are saying that it is now 1. So what I will do now is to add 2 inches for sewing allowance. So I'm adding 2 inches for sewing allowance. So I'm just going to connect the lines like this. So on the bottom part, I'm going to add ½ inch for sewing allowance. So on this area, I'm going to use ½ inch on this top here. Hope you can see the top. I'm going to use ½ inches. The cup area, I'm going to place ½ inches around it all too. This ½ inches is where I'm going to use this pressing button. I'm going to use a pressing button I'm going to insert a pressing button on this bust area so I can be able to attach the cup on it, because so that a breastfeeding mom can be able to pull it open. So that is it. I'm going to show you the sewing part so that you can be able to understand what I'm trying to say. It is only the sewing part that will help you to understand this more better. So it's going to be like this, and I'm going to cut it out. So I didn't remember to show you the conical part, that part that I'm going to cut off. So in that particular part, I'm going to cut it off right now. So from this midpoint here, hope you can see, from this midpoint here, I'm just going to go in by 2 inches like this. I'm going to go in by 2 inches, and from my waistline, I'm going to make a curve like this to it, to meet with this 2 inches like this. So I'm going to cut it off. So it's just going to be, cut it out, it's going to be like this. So remember that it's your waistline that you are going to use. You're going to start it from your waistline. So this is it. This is how it's going to be like. So by the time you open it, I'm going to open it up to show you. But before then, let me cut the back side. So I use my masking tape to join the back darts together. So the next thing I'll do is to pin it down and cut it out. At the back, from the center front, from the zipper line, I mark 2 inches inward, and from the waistline, I now connect the line like this. So you can see how it is. So I'm going to cut it out. So remember to add So right now, I'm just going to cut the zipper area. So this is it, and this is how it's going to be like. So for the front part, let me open it up to show you what it looks like. So this is how it's going to be like. This is the bust cup area, this is the cup area, and this is the part we are going to add that flare. So this is the back part. It's going to be the same thing as well. So let's head over to the sewing part.